The smell of Christmas Eve in our house wasn't pine needles or roasting turkey. It was the sharp, chemical sting of antiseptic, underscored by the faint, cloying scent of old sickness. I was in the kitchen, my hands raw from scrubbing, peeling potatoes for a dinner I wouldn't have the appetite to eat. In the living room, the television blared a holiday parade, but my ears were tuned to the bedroom upstairs. The rhythmic whir of the dialysis machine had been the soundtrack of my life for 3 years. 3 years. 1,095 days. I looked at my reflection in the darkened window. At 26, I looked 35. My hair was tied back in a messy bun that hadn't been washed in 2 days. My eyes were dull, rimmed with the permanent bruises of exhaustion. I had been a promising data analyst once. Now, I was a nurse, a maid, and a punching bag. Anna. Mom's voice, shrill and demanding, cut through the ceiling. My water is warm. Bring me ice. I wiped my hands and grabbed the pitcher. As I climbed the stairs, my knees popped. I was so tired that the hallway seemed to tilt. When I entered the room, Mom was glaring at the TV. She didn't look at me as I swapped her glass. Rachel hasn't called, she snapped. Why hasn't your sister called? She's in Aspen with Mark, Mom. The service is probably bad. She's living her life, Mom sighed wistfully, her expression softening into a look she never gave me. My beautiful girl. She shouldn't be burdened with this, gloom. Gloom. That's what she called my sacrifice. The doorbell rang. Mom sat up, eyes wide. Is that her? I don't know, Mom. Go. Hurry. I went downstairs and opened the heavy oak door. The freezing wind slapped my face, bringing snow with it. Standing there, shivering in a thin designer coat, was Rachel. Her mascara was running in black streaks down her cheeks, and she was dragging a Louis Vuitton suitcase that looked heavier than she was. Rachel? She didn't even look at me. She pushed past me, bringing the cold into the hallway. Mom! Mom! She ran up the stairs, wailing. I closed the door, a knot of dread tightening in my stomach. By the time I reached the bedroom, Rachel was on her knees by the bed, her face buried in Mom's lap. He left me, Mom. Mark left me. He kicked me out of the penthouse. He said I was too high maintenance. I have nowhere to go. Mom was stroking Rachel's hair, cooing soft noises. Shh, my baby. It's okay. You're home. I have nothing. Rachel sobbed, her voice muffled by the quilt. No money, no apartment. I'm a failure. Look at me. Mom lifted Rachel's chin. The tenderness in her eyes was blinding. You are not a failure. And you are not poor. I told you, didn't I? I have a safety net for you. I stood in the doorway, holding the tray of medication. The air in the room seemed to freeze. The house, Mom said, her voice steady. It's already in your name. I signed the transfer papers last month with lawyer Henderson. The tray in my hands rattled. What? The words scraped out of my throat. Mom finally looked at me. The tenderness vanished, replaced by a look of irritated defense. Anna, don't start. Mom. My voice trembled. 3 years ago. When Dad died. When your kidneys failed. You sat us both down. You said, whoever takes care of me gets the house. Rachel left the next day to live with Mark. I stayed. I quit my job. I sold my car to pay for your first round of treatments. And here we go, Mom scoffed, rolling her eyes at Rachel. I knew she would do this. Anna, I know your little game. My game? I stepped into the room. I haven't slept a full night in 3 years. I wipe your body. I clean your vomit. I manage your diet. I drive you to the clinic at 4 a.m. in blizzards. How is that a game? You were doing it for the reward. Mom spat. You were just waiting for me to die so you could cash out. But Rachel? Rachel needs this. She has no one else. You're strong, Anna. You're capable. Rachel is delicate. Delicate? I pointed at my sister, who was now peeking out from Mom's arms with a look of smug triumph masked as fear. She's 24 years old. She has a degree she never uses. She's delicate because you've never let her lift a finger. Stop shouting. Mom roared. Her face flushed red. This house is for your sister. End of discussion. If you were a good daughter, you'd be happy she has security. A sour, burning feeling welled up in my chest. It wasn't just anger, it was the death of hope. Okay, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper. Okay. If the house is hers, then the responsibility is hers. Mom's eyes narrowed. What are you implying? I'm implying that if I am scheming and selfish, then you surely don't want my help anymore. You have your favorite daughter. She owns the house. She can pay the bills. She can drive you to dialysis. Rachel gasped. Sis, how can you be so cruel? I don't know how to do any of that. I'm heartbroken. Mom pulled Rachel tighter. Look at you, Anna. Threatening your sick mother? You think you can blackmail me? You think I'm helpless without you? Yes, I said honestly. I think you are. Get out, Mom hissed. You ungrateful bitch. Get out of my house. I don't need you. Rachel will take care of me. She loves me for me, not for my property. I looked at Rachel. She avoided my eyes, staring at her manicured fingernails. Fine. I turned and walked out. I didn't slam the door. I walked to my room, the small guest room I had been relegated to so Mom could have the master, and pulled my suitcase from the closet. I packed with mechanical efficiency. Clothes, laptop, documents. I left the family photo albums. I left the gifts I had bought them. As I dragged my suitcase to the stairs, I heard them talking. Is she really going? Rachel asked, her voice trembling slightly. Mom, who's going to cook Christmas dinner? Let her go, Mom sneered. She's trying to scare us. She has no job, no money, and no friends. She'll be back before the turkey is cold, begging on her knees. We won't let her in until she apologizes. I paused at the front door. The house was warm, smelling of the life I had wasted. I opened the door and stepped into the snow. The wind bit through my jacket, but for the first time in 3 years, the air felt clean. I didn't look back. Part 2. The Wilderness. The first week was a blur of cheap motel rooms and instant noodles. Mom was right about one thing, I had been out of the workforce for 3 years. In the tech and data world, 3 years is a century. I was rusty. I was exhausted. And I was running out of savings. I rented a studio apartment in a rough part of the city. It smelled of stale tobacco and damp drywall, but it was mine. I didn't have to listen for the bell. I didn't have to wake up at 4 a.m. unless I wanted to. I applied to 50 jobs. I got 0 calls. I applied to 50 more. I got 2 rejections and 1 interview for an unpaid internship. Depression tried to claw its way in. I would sit on my floor, staring at my phone, waiting for it to ring. Part of me, the battered, conditioned part, wanted them to call. I wanted Mom to say she was sorry. I wanted Rachel to say she needed me. But the phone stayed silent. I had blocked them, true, but they hadn't tried to email. They hadn't called my friends. They had erased me. So, I erased them. I stopped mentioning my gap year as family care in interviews. I started freelancing, taking low-paying data entry gigs on Upwork just to build a portfolio. I worked 18 hours a day. Not because I had to, but because if I stopped working, I would remember that I was an orphan with living parents. 3 months later, I got a break. A mid-sized marketing firm, Helix Strategies, needed a junior analyst. The hiring manager, a sharp woman named Sarah, looked at my resume. 3-year gap, she noted. I was managing a complex, high-stress medical environment for a terminal patient, I said, my voice steady. I learned crisis management, resource allocation, and how to function under extreme pressure. Sarah looked at me over her glasses. She saw the steel in my spine. You're hired. Life began to accelerate. I wasn't just good at my job, I was ravenous for it. I treated every spreadsheet like a battleground. I automated systems. I stayed late. I absorbed new software like a sponge. 6 months in, I was promoted. 1 year in, I was leading a team. 2 years in, I was making 6 figures and living in a high-rise condo with a view of the river. I had cut my hair into a sharp bob. I wore tailored suits. I had a boyfriend, David, a calm and kind architect who listened to me when I talked and never asked me to fetch him water. I was happy. I was free. And then, the past came knocking. Part 3, The Cracks in the Facade. It started with a call to my work line. Helix Strategies, Anna speaking. Miss Anna. This is Dr. Miller from St. Jude's Hospital. My fingers froze on the keyboard. Dr. Miller, I said, my voice dropping to 0 degrees. I believe I removed myself from the contact list 2 years ago. You did, he said, sounding harried. But we have a situation. The payments for your mother's dialysis have bounced for 3 months. We can't continue treatment without payment. And, well, her condition has deteriorated significantly. She's in the ICU. Where is Rachel? I asked. Where is the owner of the house? Your sister. Dr. Miller hesitated. She is rarely here. When she is, she seems overwhelmed. Miss Anna, your mother has developed sepsis from a poorly maintained catheter site. It looks like hygiene at home has been negligible. Negligible hygiene. That meant filth. That meant Rachel hadn't been cleaning. I'm sorry, doctor, I said. That sounds terrible. But it is not my problem. She could die, Anna. She made her choice. She chose her caregiver. Please contact Rachel. I hung up. My hand was shaking. David walked into my office, saw my face, and closed the door. Them? Do you want to go? No. Good. But they didn't stop. 2 days later, I walked out of my office building to find Rachel standing on the sidewalk. She looked like a ghost. Her designer clothes were stained and wrinkled. Her hair was matted. She had gained weight, her face puffy and red. She saw me and ran over, grabbing my arm. "Anna! Oh God, Anna, you look so rich." I pulled my arm away. "Rachel! What do you want?" "You have to come back," she blubbered, tears instantly springing to her eyes. "I can't do it anymore. It smells, Anna. The house smells like death." She screams all night. She soils the bed and she expects me to clean it. Me? That was the deal, I said coldly. You got the house. You got the duty. I sold the house, she screamed. I stopped. You what? I had to. Mark left me with debt. I took out a second mortgage, then I couldn't pay it. I sold it 6 months ago. We're renting a crappy apartment now. The money is gone, Anna. It's all gone. Mom doesn't know. I told her we're just renovating, so we had to move. I looked at this pathetic creature. The golden child. The delicate flower. She had burned through a $500,000 asset in 2 years while our mother rotted in filth. You need to pay the hospital, Rachel demanded, her tone shifting from begging to entitlement. You have a good job. Mom said you're making money. You need to pay the $800,000 for the surgery and the back payments. Or Mom dies. Then she dies, I said. Rachel's jaw dropped. She's your mother. She disowned me, Rachel. Remember? Christmas Eve. Get out. Die out there. I'm just following orders. I'll sue you. Rachel shrieked, causing people on the street to stare. Filial responsibility laws. I looked it up. You have to pay. Go ahead, I said, stepping into my car. My lawyer will eat you alive. Part 4, The Ultimatum. They didn't sue. They didn't have the money for a lawyer. Instead, they played the final card. A week later, my phone blew up. Not from them, but from aunts, cousins, and distant relatives I hadn't seen in years. Rachel had gone on Facebook. She had written a long, tear-jerking post about how her heartless corporate sister had abandoned their dying mother while she, the loyal saint, tried to save her. People were messaging me, monster. Ungrateful. How do you sleep at night? David found me crying in the kitchen. We can make it stop, he said. We can get a restraining order. No, I wiped my eyes. I need to end this. On my terms. I drove to the hospital. When I walked into the ICU room, the smell hit me first. Even in the sterile hospital, Mom smelled of decay. She was a skeleton under the sheets, her skin gray and papery. Rachel was sitting in the corner, scrolling on her phone. She jumped up when I entered. You came. Mom. Anna is here. She brought the check. Mom opened her eyes. They were cloudy, but the malice was still there, dim but present. So, she rasped. You finally crawled back. I stood at the foot of the bed. I didn't hold her hand. I'm not here to pay, Mom. I'm here to tell you the truth. Truth? She coughed. The truth is you're a bad daughter. The truth, I said, looking at Rachel, is that Rachel sold the house. The room went silent. The heart monitor beeped, beep, beep, beep. Mom turned her head slowly to Rachel. What? She's lying. Rachel squeaked. She sold it 6 months ago, I continued, my voice calm and professional. She blew the money on clothes, a failed investment in a boyfriend's business, and gambling. She's broke, Mom. That's why you're in that apartment. That's why the bills aren't paid. Mom's breathing hitched. Rachel? Tell me she's lying. Rachel began to sob, but it wasn't the cute, victim sobbing of before. It was the ugly panic of a cornered rat. I had to. It was so hard. I deserved a reward for putting up with you. Putting up with me? Mom whispered. You're disgusting. Rachel screamed, finally snapping. You smell. You complain. You're a burden. I hate you. I wish you had died 3 years ago so I could have just taken the money and left. Mom looked as if she had been slapped. The illusion she had built for 20 years, the perfect, loving Rachel, shattered in an instant. She looked at her golden child and saw a monster. Then, she looked at me. I saw the gears turning. I saw the desperation. She reached a trembling hand toward me. Anna, she croaked. Tears leaked from her eyes. Anna, my daughter. I'm sorry. I was wrong. She is a devil. But you were always the good one. Please. Save me. Take me home. I'll make it up to you. It was the moment I had dreamed of for years. The apology. The validation. The shifting of the crown. I looked at her hand. I remembered the nights I cried myself to sleep. I remembered the get out. I remembered the dream on. I didn't take her hand. No, I said. Mom's hand froze. What? I'm not the good one, Mom. I'm just the one who escaped. You created Rachel. You spoiled her, you enabled her, and you taught her that people are things to be used. She is exactly who you raised her to be. You deserve each other. Anna, please. I'm dying. We all die, I said. Dr. Miller told me there was a kidney match available last week. But the donor pulled out. I looked at Rachel. Rachel went pale. I didn't pull out. Rachel stammered. I had a health condition. She was the match, Mom, I said softly. Rachel was the match. She refused to donate. She wanted to keep her body perfect. Mom let out a sound that wasn't human. It was a wail of pure, agonized betrayal. She tried to sit up, clawing at the air toward Rachel. You! My own flesh! I'm leaving now, I said. Anna! Don't leave me with her! Mom screamed. You gave her the responsibility, I said, walking to the door. She is your safety net. Enjoy it. I walked out of the room. Behind me, the screaming continued, a cacophony of accusations and weeping between a mother and the monster she made. Part 5, The Clean Break. I didn't go back. Mom died 2 weeks later. The sepsis took her. I didn't go to the funeral. I heard from a cousin that it was a disaster. Rachel tried to play the grieving daughter, but the family knew. The rumors had spread. No one spoke to her. Rachel tried to contact me one last time a month later. She sent a text. I'm being evicted. Can I crash on your couch? Just for a few days. We're sisters. I replied with a single image, a screenshot of the Zillow listing of our old family house. I had bought it. When the bank foreclosed on the new owners, who had bought it from Rachel, I purchased it through an LLC. I didn't buy it to live in. I didn't buy it for nostalgia. I hired a crew. We gutted it. Every carpet, every curtain, every piece of furniture Mom had cherished, it all went into a dumpster. I renovated it completely. Open concept, modern, bright. It looked nothing like the tomb I had grown up in. I sold it for a massive profit. With that money, I started my own consultancy firm. I named it Phoenix Analytics. On Christmas Eve, 4 years after the night I was kicked out, I stood on the balcony of my condo with David. We were drinking expensive wine. The city lights glittered below us. "Do you ever think about them?" David asked. I took a sip of wine. The bitter taste was gone. All I tasted was sweetness. "Who?" I asked. And for the first time in my life, I truly meant it.